What's up? Your man Don T of Don T Records Music Group. And today we're going to talk about gain staging, a very important process prior to your mixing. Alright, so it's very important. I'll tell you why here in a second. But before I get into that, I'd like to introduce my man Kenny. He came to join me tonight. He's on the set. Say what's up, Kenny.
Hey, what's good with y'all? Sitting here with my man Don T. You know, he's ready to school me on some things. I'm ready to get into it.
Alright, so let's jump right into it. So what are we talking about? We're talking about gain staging. Something that myself, I'm guilty of. You know, just jumping into my mix and not getting everything set up properly and so forth. And I'm sure there's many others out there that ain't doing the right thing. But I want to tell you something. You want to take the time to do this. So what am I talking about? Gain staging is a critical process, okay, that can take your mix from being just an amateur to a professional level. And that's where everybody want to be. We want to be up here, okay? So the purpose is to manage all your volume levels to achieve the cleanest mix possible. Understand that? The cleanest mix possible. And having a solid gain stage structure in your mix will not only get rid of unwanted noises, distortion, you'll have a cleaner mix, you can get a louder mix, it helps your tracks to gel together, it also helps your track to breathe. Everybody say that with me. Breathe. You know what I'm saying? And then when it comes down to the mastering, it can be done at a higher level. Okay? So, let me tell you something. Without gain staging, your mix can experience frequencies that are not balanced. Okay? So you got balance issues going on, and your mix, it may not translate from system to system. So when we mix, and you know this, you've been doing it for a while, right? We check our mixes in various systems, in the house, in the car, on the boom box, in the computer, on the computer. We're just listening to our music everywhere, in the headphones. And so without good gain staging, the translation of your sound may vary from system to system because the quality is not there. So, you know, it's also levels that are too loud can cut into the quality of your audio. So gain staging is very important throughout the mixing process. Well, yeah, we can say throughout the mixing process because sometimes you may have to still do some gain staging afterwards, but yeah, you get my point. So what is gain staging? What is gain staging? You know what? I'm glad you asked. Well, let's talk about gain real quick. Gain. It's the strength of a signal into a device. Everybody get that?
Yep.
The strength of a signal into a device. Okay? So we sometimes confuse gain with volume. Two different things. Two different things. So the volume is the strength of a signal leaving the device. Okay? So difference is one is coming into and one is leaving. All right? But we're not leaving just yet. I still got some more for you. All right, check this out. So it's important to know the sweet spot that you may hear often about negative 18 dBs. Well, okay, what does that mean? Well, let me tell you here, okay? So the digital and analog, they measure audio differently, okay? And here's why. In the analog domain, negative 18 dBs is equal to approximately, let me just say approximately, 0 dBs in a digital domain. I'll say that one more time. I don't think some of you heard me. 18 dB, negative 18 dBs is approximately 0 dBs in the digital domain. Okay? So that's why we allow that negative 18 dBs headroom space. So when we get into the digital domain, we're hitting about 0. And I'll show you an example here in a second. Okay? So I want to begin, before I begin my mix, I want to do some gain staging. But before I do that, I want to put my system back in pre-fade metering. That way I can see what is going on. And even though I have it at 0, it doesn't really matter because the volume should be the same coming across because this is at 0. But I normally start in pre. That way I'm just working with the fade, the stem and wave itself, and not working with the fader. Okay, so this is this signal here that I'll get here. This audio volume indicator will show me what's going on here before it even gets here. Okay, so that's what I want to see. All right, so right now I got, and I'm not advertising for these guys, but I got a Wave VU meter. Okay, and as you can see here at the top, headroom is at 18. Yes, you can select different ones and change it out. And this is here I'm not worried about right now, delay or anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on so we can get started. And we're going to take a listen to what's going on. And you can see the meter jump, and then we'll go over here. You'll see where it's at here too. All right. Okay, let's stop there. So as you can see, we're in the red. We're over 0. It's hot. So what we got to do is in Pro Tools, and you can use the gain here on the actual audio, the actual wave file or the stem file, to reduce where this is actually peaking. So over here it said negative 2.0 dBs. Is what's actually coming through, and right now that's too hot. So we want to reduce that, and we want to get this down. So as I play it back, I'll start reducing this until I hit the desired gain. Here we go. Okay, as you can see, I got it to hit approximately at 0 dBs, which is where I would like to have it. And so right now, this track is ready to go. We're ready to start mixing. If that was the only track I had in my session, which probably wouldn't be just one track, but I'm just using this as an example for now so that we're not taking such a long time. So right now, I've gain staged this track on this channel. However, and I'm going to stop right there and just take a step back. This is a way of doing that. Okay, this is a way of doing that in Pro Tools. Now, if you have another DAW that you don't have this capability, you have a few options. You can actually find a gain plugin, which every DAW has, and start reducing on that gain plugin, which will turn down the volume of your audio prior to the fader. And you want to achieve where it's not above 0 or right at 0 as it's being played. Okay, so that's where negative 18 came into play. Okay, and now it's hitting at 0. All right, so another thing I want to share with you is another plugin that I was turned on to by a good friend of mine, Junior Lee. He turned me on to it, and I thought it was just just great, because what it did for me, time is very important when we're doing anything, and to speed up the flow, the workflow, and getting your mix done for a client, this plugin increased gain staging for me dramatically, where I can just go through it like quickly without having to play the audio and listen and try to adjust levels manually, because this plugin does it for me by itself. So let's take a look at this plugin. And just want to remind you that I'm not advertising for this plugin. I will tell you, I'll leave a link after this video is over where you can actually pick this plugin up, and it's I think somewhere like $7. It's very cheap. So if you end up increasing your workflow, this is a plugin you want to get when it comes to gain staging. It'll help you out. However, it's not mandatory or necessary that you do get this plugin, but again, I like things to be quick, fast, so I can get done, and this plugin does the trick. -18 is a reference, max -6 dBs. Why is that way? Because again, when we go to mastering, that's where we want. That's the rule of thumb. So that's where we want to be. So let's go ahead and now play this track. All right, red 0. Okay, as you can tell and as you can see, the gain was reduced the same amount that I reduced it with the Waves VU meter, and that was that, and that's it for this track. So if that was the end of the session, but let me move on to the plugins because I want to talk about Unity gain. All right, so let's play this through this plugin. Now you notice that got louder when I boosted that frequency, and so I want to now reduce the output to make up for the boost I did, to actually lower it, because I want to maintain unity, which means that the input gain is the same as the output gain, and that way you can ensure that your plugins are not clipping and that you're maintaining a constant sound throughout adding plugins, because you don't want your sound to keep getting louder and louder, because why do gain staging if you're not going to adjust those plugins as well? That's a part of the gain staging process, to adjust plugins as we go so that we can maintain the level that we started out with all the way through the process. And that's the goal. That's the goal. Okay? So I reduced that a little bit. Let's play it back. Okay, and by bypassing, I'm actually checking the volume to make sure that the volume stays the same. And that's what you need to do. Every plugin you add, you need to do this process all the way through. That way we didn't destroy what we did at first with the gain staging, but gain staging continues all the way through the process. Okay, and that's not only with plugins but also effects. Alright? Alright, so say I'm ready to be done with this, and as you can see on my mix bus, I already got another gain plugin. Okay? And I got that gain plugin on the mix bus. As you can see, here is my mix bus. So we'll see what our levels actually is, and I'll bypass this EQ because I don't need it on there for this purpose. So let's see where we at. I got this plugin here. Now, you had a question earlier about, like, in certain DAWs you would have to leave the gain plugin on there. unless you would actually reduce the volume of the whole wave file itself, or stem. But in Pro Tools, what I would do is I would actually take the plugin off and just reduce this down to -5 like it was earlier. And that way I can save computer processing and so forth. So it's not taking up memory and all that kind of thing and so forth. So in Pro Tools, for Pro Tool users and any other DAW that you're able to do this, or reduce the wave file, that's what I would recommend, and then I could actually remove this plugin from here completely. Alright, so let's move down to the mix bus. So again, even on the mix bus, we want to make sure, because when we're going to mastering, the rule of thumb is to leave yourself at least -6 dBs of headroom while you're mixing your song, and that way when you send it to mastering, you can get that higher level, that best quality possible that you're reaching for. So right here, let's play it back. Okay, so right now we're at -4.7. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to apply the plug-in. Oh, we got to turn it on. Alright, so we got -1.7, and I don't think I did turn on my post fader now. So I'm going to turn it on post fader, because now I want to see what's actually going on when I move this fader. And so to make up the difference, to get up to my -6 dBs, is I'm just going to boost my fader a little bit. This is one way. This is one way. There's many other ways, but this is one way to do that. Alright, so right there is pretty good, and then now I'm ready. So we just talked about why gain stages is important, okay? And we just went through a quick overview of the process and how it works. For any DAW, you can achieve the same results by using what tools you have available. But at the end of the day, this is a very important stage in getting the cleanest mix possible, and also taking your mix from amateur to professional level. So don't bypass this step. Hey, I'm gonna let Kenny, do you have anything you want to say, man, before we close out here?
I do want to say that that I do understand the process of the reason why that we need a gain stage. As you was explaining, the sweet spot, the -18 equaling 0. I really don't think that a lot of people understand why that is so important. Even though you did explain it, is there a way that you can kind of break it down in a more simpler way? Because some people may look at gain stage and what's so important about that, and you can sit there and explain it and they won't get it. But in a more simpler term, or in a more down to earth way, what?
Okay, check this out real quick, brief. Alright, so if I add 1 dBs to 1 dBs, I get 2 dBs. If I add 1 dBs to 3 dBs, I get 4 dBs. So where am I going with this? The more volume I'm adding to the output of any device, it's getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. And so what happens is your headroom is starting to be reduced. things are starting to get into the red area. And that's the whole purpose of avoiding doing that is to keep it tame, keeping your levels tame and balanced. And that's pretty much how I would explain it. Because if we didn't do gain staging and we keep adding plugins and did no gain staging, no unity gain on any of these things, your sound is going to get louder and louder and louder and louder. And what's going to happen is you're going to be pulling faders too far down in the mix. And when you pull faders too far down in the mix, one little move could mean 10 dBs of volume. And that's why it's important to gain stage. I don't know if I
No, dude, you explained it. You explained it right on point. That was good. So yeah, that's now I understand that why is it so important. Yeah, because that does happen when you're mixing. You know, the volume just adds up with the plugins and with it already being so loud and the DAW, and then next thing you know, one little move on the fader and now your mix is distorted or messed up. So
things get loud very quick because the faders are too low and so forth. Yep. So that's why it's important. All right, so we're running out of time here. If you got any questions, leave comments below in the comment block. I'll leave a link to that one plugin I use that did it for me automatically. Got any comments, leave them below. Subscribe to my channel. This is Don T Records Music Group, and we're out. Peace. And I thank my man Kenny for stopping by, and hanging out with me. But peace. I'll see y'all next time. I'll see you later.